as we start to get into this defensive tackle conversation, who is your defensive tackle 3? Like so who's your 1? Is it Murphy or is it Newton?
It's close. I mean, we're talking fractions of a point, but it's Newton and then Murphy. My problem with Murphy is I think his pad level rises too consistently against double teams. I also think I think he gets just kind of content there. I think playing next to a 362-pound defensive tackle in Tandre Sweat is a big benefit, and it got him into a lot of one-on-one situations. They used him situationally, which was very odd. If you're just an absolute dog, like I feel like you should be out there more than at times. Like they'd be playing, let's say Alabama, and Alabama would be driving down the field and Murphy's not on the field. And then all of a sudden they get into the red zone and Murphy's now on the field. And I get why like teams do that, but, and I understand he's going to blow the doors off the combine in the next couple of days. He's going to test really well at 6'1", 308.
He pulled out of the Senior Bowl literally the night before first practice because he probably got wind that he's going in the top 20 or top half of the first round.
Yeah, and his game is very similar to guys that we see in the NFL, like quick hands, like Kenny Clark, and he's able to fight pressure with pressure, but combo blocks, double teams, playing next to a 362-pound tackle. I just worry about that. But again, I still really like him. Johnny Newton playing through injury, always on the go, so explosive. He's
the fact that that tape that like him against Wisconsin was he balled out the whole game, and he did it on a fractured foot. He had a Jones fracture in his foot.
Yeah.
And he's out there ghosting anybody and everybody along the entire offensive line.
Yeah. And I think he's going to go down the board a little bit. I think, again, I think he's going to be very much in play for Buffalo and Detroit. And I mention him because we're right after each other on the draft board. And it's no secret I'm a Lions guy. So like, I think either one makes a lot of sense for us. Yeah. The next guy, how do you have him? And I know you got to give some love to Silas real quick too.
I did, yeah. I pulled up this. I was gonna say Silas. I haven't gotten into Zakari Franklin yet. With how deep that wide receiver. Plus, he didn't have anything. I want to feel like I was banged up in 2023. Let me pull up my notes. Yeah, he only had 4 games in 2023. 8 total targets. Yeah, he played against Bama, LSU, and Auburn, but only 8 targets amongst everything in those games. I'd have to go back and see his Texas San Antonio stuff from 2022 and 2021. Just haven't gotten to him to that point, but awesome name to bring up. Silas is always like trying like these obscure like pieces that he loves. And actually a bunch of them have hit. Yeah. Oh, so a hamstring. Yeah. Fair enough. But we will get to him at some point. Silas, again, appreciate the super chat and you being here. The defensive tackle conversation is tough. The reason I have Murphy ahead of Newton is I think there's more positional versatility. Like I think he can 3-tech and he can 1-tech. Whereas Newton, I feel like I really just want him as a 3-tech more so than I want him banging. You know what's weird too? Like he's listed at 295, but he looks like he weighs 305 or like 310. Like I would have never thought he was sub 300. Watching how big he is on tape, but I really didn't think. I posted like my first clip of Newton, and somebody commented and was like, "Oh man, like who do you have, like Newton or Murphy number 1?" And I was like, "Well, I've just started Newton, so I can't comment." And I was like, "But it's going to be really hard for someone to, surpass Byron Murphy for me." And here I am thinking that Newton like could do it just with what he does, like the violence in the hands, the pop in those hands, like everything that he has, the swim move, the swipe chop into the rip. Like you can also, depending on too, if like you're an odd front team, like you want to play him in a 4-eye. I really, really like that. And with his quickness and lateral agility and explosion on the snap, the games that you can play with run stunts and all these different aspects, like he can jump 2 gaps in an instant just because of the lateral agility and explosion that he has, let alone the hand usage. He's violent. He's mean. He's nasty. When I say violent, I mean like the pop and the quickness in his hands when he swims or when he swipes, but also violent with how he lays quarterbacks the F out. Like he puts them in the dirt and, he bangs, he gums up the works against the run. Just, I like so much of what Newton does. Both of them have 1st-round grades for me with what they can do. And I probably will flip flop a ton on both of them, thinking
Yeah.
who's like 1 versus who's 2. Like
Yeah.
it
And
might, they might get into like a 1A, 1B situation for me, like Cam Kitchens
Mhm.
and Tyler Newman at safety.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to tear those ones off and let it
Absolutely.
be.
They are in their own. And it's such a shame too, because they're both so good. And then I find there's other guys who I liked later, like Tyler Davis flashes a bit for me. And I like Dwayne
Yes.
Carter a bit and then I'm like, Chris Jenkins sometimes does some good stuff, but there's
Yep.
nobody who I'm like, oh, I like some of the things that Braden Fisk does. And then I also watch Braden Fisk get blown off the ball. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like there's really a huge gap between those two and literally like
Yep.
everyone else.
Yep. I will say TP made a comment there. Savon Williams, TCU, fun late round pick. Yes, absolutely killed it at the Shrine Bowl. And there's a clip. I thought I posted it. So I searched. I can't find it, but there's a clip of him literally hurdling a dude. It is insanity because he's 6'4", like 210, and he catches a ball and he's just. I'm trying to remember who they played. It's TCU against. Is it like Baylor maybe? And he's flying down the field and he just hurdles somebody. And I'm like, whoa, who is this guy? I was watching Jared Wiley for the Senior Bowl, and Savon Williams just kept popping. I'm like, who is this guy? And then I'm watching Amani Bailey, and I keep seeing Savon Williams. So, but yeah, no, I think those guys are definitely in a tier on their own with Newton and Murphy. And yeah, I'm with you. There's a drop off, and I like Braden Fisk a lot. But the short arms thing worries me a little bit. Sub 300 pounds worries me a little bit. Solomon Thomas has me scarred for life. He was 286, and I just struggle with guys like that. But I do think Braden Fisk is fast enough to play as like a 4i5. But I don't know if he's long. I don't know if he's long enough. I think
I like him as a rotational, like 3 tech for anybody, even for the Bills. Like you're going to run a 4-3 over front. Cool.
Yeah.
He's your third dude. He's your second 3 tech. He looks like Eric, we were calling him baby Kyle Williams.
That's a perfect way to sum him
in the
up.
Senior Bowl. But again, I think that's also his upside. Like I think again, and Kyle Williams became like an all-pro defensive tackle. Like, but he very much like bucked the trend in a lot of ways. And I think it's just hard to ask somebody to do that or expect somebody to do that. Plus, I don't know his age, but he's a bit older because he was a 6th-year senior, I believe, this year at Florida State because he was a transfer.
Yeah, he played at Western Michigan.
Yes, Western Michigan. Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I was thinking. I knew it was a team with a horse logo, and I was like, what team is it? Yeah, I was confused all the Westerns. Western Michigan, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan. There's too many. And then Michigan State. There's so many. But again, him like I like Fisk, but I like him, and it's like, oh, cool. Like, what is he going to be? It's like rotational 3 tech,
right?
Like, and I was really hoping. I watched Chris Jenkins. I was really hoping I would like more 1 tech aspects to his game. I think that's even part of it too, right? Like, it's hard to find a good 1 tech. I feel like in this class, it's like limited if you're looking at that. All these guys are like 3 techs. And they're usually siloed. Like this guy's a 3 tech and is a really good pass rusher. This one is a really good run defender and can't pass rush worth a lick. Marcus Harris from Auburn is another. Like I liked him at the Senior Bowl a bit. I didn't love him on tape as much as I wanted to, but he gives you some piece. But again, he's more of a 3 tech piece. Silas coming in saying Christian Boyd, from University of Northern Iowa. Like it's just I haven't seen guys I feel like in so long in a defensive tackle class that were so siloed. Like usually it's like, well, you can do a little of this or the upside for this. It just feels like a lot of these guys are just silo and role specific on the interior. And it scares me. Like if I'm the Bills, I am prioritizing with how this draft is. I'm prioritizing defensive tackle in free agency. Like you better bring back Daquan Jones or go out and get yourself Sheldon Rankins or bring in, Ashawn Robinson or Malcolm Roach or whoever, because you're probably getting a rotational guy in the draft because Byron Murphy is not going to fall to you. And even if Newton is there, you have positional redundancy with Ed Oliver. And part of me just wants to throw caution to the wind and say, screw it, just draft good football players and take Johnny Newton and worry about the schematic fit later. But you're not using him to his full potential if you're trying to play him at a 1 tech, so it doesn't really make sense. Like, I feel like at best, the Bills are coming out of this draft with a rotational defensive tackle based on how the class is, based on how the board's looking. Like it's not rough, but it's so siloed in terms of usage and frame.
Yeah. Well, McKinley Jackson is a
Yes.
guy from Mississippi State.
I wanted to like him more, though. I didn't.
Same, dude.
Both at the Senior Bowl and on tape. Like, because I feel like the one techs in the upper tiers, it's like, oh, Sweat and then McKinley. And I'm like, I wanted to like his tape so bad. And I just,
but he's so on and off. Like there's a play, like there's plays where he's hitting an explosive first step with a great swim move. He's not getting reached. And then there's times where he's getting completely washed out of the play. He's turning his shoulders. But there's stuff to like at 6'1", 330 pounds. The arm length is there. I think he can play as a 1, a 0 shade, even a little 2Y. I think the pass rush motor is good enough. I think, again, the explosive first step is there, but he was banged up in 2022. He had a drug charge in 2021.
Oh, not great.
I think there's some concerns. So I just don't know what to do with him. And I'm with you. Tyler Davis is another one. Great first step when he wants to turn it on, but there's so much that falls off there. And I think you get into a lot more with just guys, and that's pretty much it.
And even within like Davis and I'm just gonna say Rook because I can't pronounce his last name.
I'm with you.
From Clemson. They do so many games up front. They're always running like twists and stunts there's so little reps of just like come off the ball and let me see if you can show some pass rush moves against a guard or a tackle or center. Like everything is like 2 and 3 man games. It is we're going to stunt both tackles and we're going to loop around the edge, or we're putting Trotter and Barrett in the A gaps. And we're going to do this game and do this blitz and do this stunt. It's so hard to just get like a true read. A lot of why I like Tyler Davis was just the motor and the hustle and the energy from the Senior Bowl. Like he was running down running backs 15 yards downfield, like constantly getting after it. There was pop and juice off the snap. So I was like, cool, let me go into the tape. And every game, it's just all these stunts and games, which is fun, but you don't really get to see him do much because like he's lined up as a 1 tech or like as a 2I, and then he's looping around and occupy the right tackle or something, but he's just there to like dance like and be a distraction. So he's not doing anything. So you're not getting any value out of the evaluation.
Yep. No, and I think you get into some guys that they just kind of play gap and they, are playing gap control, and they're focused on trying to stop the run, and then there's no real pass rush value. There's so much up and down with this group. But like the way I have it after the top 2 guys, it's Tandre Sweat. There's just so much to like with his game at that size, 360, 362, to move that way. It's just different.
Do you think he stays? Do you think he drops a little? Do you think he like some team tries to bump him down to like 350s or high or 100%. Like that?
Yeah, 100%. And I think they can. I really think they can do that because he moves so well, and I don't think you're going to lose any of like the power or strength of his game, but he's going to draw so much attention. I would love to see him in a place like Detroit because it would free up Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson. But again, even if he went to Buffalo, like he would free up Ed Oliver so much as a 3 tech. And obviously like Greg Russo, like there would be so much that you could do with him. And just that whole front. And I think he provides versatility for you because he could bump out to play a 3 if you wanted him to, and he would essentially just clog up that B gap, and you'd probably have to have a tackle come down and collapse, and that would free up a potential blitz up the middle with some type of linebacker. Maybe that, again, I don't know if linebacker is going to be a position of need in the first round or even a position of need that they look at. I will say, and I probably should save this for the end of the show, but Edrin Cooper from Texas A&M, I think would be a absolute blast in the Bills defense. He's
so fun to watch. Like the speed at which he moves and processes and triggers, and like you can blitz him
off the rails, baby.
100% going off the rails. I expected it. But yeah, like he, it's funny too. Somebody mocked him to the Bills in the second round, and everybody like hated him.
He ain't gonna be there.
No, I think he's linebacker 1. And I say this as a person, like I like some of the things that Trotter does, but I just think Cooper is linebacker one with the versatility and just what he does. Like he plays fast. He's angry. Like when he has the opportunity to finish someone, he finises.
He messed Jalen Milroe up a couple times.
Bro, he killed Milroe. And then even in in that Bama game, they run, I think it's just power because I think it's a pulling guard. And he diagnoses the pulling guard and slips underneath him and then just like picks up Jace McClellan and dumps him like right in the A gap.
Yep, the way he dips his shoulders.
Yes. He's so fluid and he's so twitched up and explosive, like with his movements, and he's got good eyes and he reads. Yeah, I think he's fun for or I would love to see him like go to Baltimore as like a replacement for Patrick Queen, even though like I like Trenton Simpson. Like I want him to go to some team that's going to be like, we're going to move you all over and just let you run real fast and hit everything that moves. Yeah, there's so many like fun options. I wish I felt, and granted he's at the top of the linebacker class, but yeah, I just wish I felt more excited about the defensive tackle grouping, like after the top two. Like Sweat, I do like, he had a good Senior Bowl week, and there's some pass rush reps where he busts out a quick arm over or a swim move and he wins instantaneously. Like he plays how I hoped Siaki Ika was going to play last year for Baylor.
Yeah.
Ika was somebody who was like a dancing bear with how fluid he was, and I loved that. But then you'd watch him try to take on a double team or anchor, and he just did not have the heaviness in his lower body, and he's getting knocked around. Sweat is what I wanted Ika to be, like a true plug in the interior, but he does offer a little bit of juice. It's just going to be interesting to see, like, what do teams see him as? Can you knock down his weight enough? Do you think he can live on 3 downs? How much is he like just an early 1 and 2 down type of player? What does that value do? And again, I think he's even a good representation of that defensive tackle class, because it's just so siloed. You have to have so many conversations. There were so many guys who I wanted to like I wanted to like Brandon Dorlus from Oregon. I like some of the things that Michael Hall does from Ohio State, but I mean, he's like 280 pounds. Like there's only so much you can do with him. Again, siloed.
And he's only like 6'2".
Yeah, he said I think he's 6'2", 280. Like that's tiny. Like that's Ed Oliver kind of tiny. And like Ed Oliver,
you're not Ed Oliver. He's not Ed Oliver.
And Ed Oliver is an outlier. Like, and I even say this as somebody who I banged the table for Kalijah Cansey last year. Like, it's just, you have to be a stud with your hands and block recognition and block deconstruction and leverage and power and pop. So many things have to go right in your game to win at that size. Again, so he's probably like a rotational player, but it gets so muddy and scary with the defensive tackle class when you go down. Like I wanted to like Jordan Jefferson more than I did. I haven't watched Stackhouse from Georgia, even though I watched a bunch of Georgia defense tape. It's been all defensive back related. I shouldn't say defensive back. It's been all safety related with Bullard and Tyke Smith. But man,
they should just go out and sign Justin Jones, the defensive tackle from Chicago.
I didn't like his tape.
Oh well. I did when he was coming out. I haven't watched his Bears tape. So if you've watched his Bears tape.
I watched, and granted, sample size is small. I only watched one game. I watched the game against Washington. I watched him for like some free agent stuff we were prepping last week. And I remembered the name and the tape coming out. I saw the production and I was like, oh, okay. And I just didn't like him. I mean, again, I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him, but he wasn't somebody who I liked as much. But again,
that's what I mean.
Pickens.
That's what I'm saying, though. You bring in a guy like that on a cheap 1 or 2 year deal. You draft one of these defensive tackles we're talking about. Obviously, with Ed Oliver into the mix, I think you're kind of cooking with something there.
Cooking with gas, baby. Cooking with gas.
Yeah, because I don't know. Again, we hit so many names here. I don't know which one they get. If this is going to be a serious need for them, which one are they going to get that's going to really contribute and take some pressure off of the interior parts of the defensive line? I don't know. You're not going to get it consistently. You're going to have to get it on a rotational basis.
And then, even again, somebody who like I like what Dwayne Carter did at the Senior Bowl. Like I haven't liked his tape as much as I liked him at the Senior Bowl. But okay, too. Like I'm happy with him coming. But again, what's he doing? Like someone's gonna be like, oh, why are you excited for this guy? I'm like,
what?
Because he's a rotational 3 tech.
Yeah,
like, right. And that's what you're living in. If you're not getting Murphy. Again, Newton has positional redundancy, but if you're not getting Murphy and you're not getting Newton, you're probably not getting a starting defensive tackle. You know what? I'll throw Sweat into that mix too, because I think Sweat can be like a starting one tech for somebody. So if you're not getting, but there's a far gap between the top two and Sweat. No disrespect to Sweat. It's just that Newton and Taylor or Murphy are so good. And I did want to bring up this one, Charles. I know you've been banging the drum for him. Leonard Taylor. I'm a big Miami guy. I just watched him get blown off the ball so much, especially against double teams. He's got a very narrow base. He gets hit. A guard will engage him, and a center will block him, and just knock him like 4 gaps outside, and just he goes flying. He doesn't have the sand in his lower half to withstand things inside, and even juice going forward. Like, for what he was 2 years ago, I thought he should have dominated more on their interior this year. And instead, it was Ruben Bain being nasty every single week for Miami. And I had to keep being like, is Taylor playing this week? Is Taylor playing? Like, again, it's fine to take a flyer. Maybe you tap into something, but he's not somebody who I enjoyed watching this year. And then even in watching like a ton of Cam Kitchens and James Williams tape, I'm like, oh, who's on the ground? Oh, it's Leonard Taylor.
Yeah, or he just completely disappears. Like, he just gets very complacent and is just fine with being out there. And to me, like, you're playing in the trenches, you got to pop every now and again. Like, you don't always have to get the football for me or get there, but at least pop.
Just gum up the works. Just do something that makes life hard for an opponent. Like, that's fine for me. Like, just make it difficult for that's it. That's all I want.
And he doesn't do it. I did see a comment about Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa. I know he blew up the Shrine Bowl, and I heard a lot of positive things about him before that. Of course, it's Silas. Silas is the man. But I haven't watched his tape, so I can't sit here and say anything positive. He could easily become a 3rd or 4th ranked defensive tackle in this class if the tape matches. I mean, again, it all depends.
No disrespect to him, says a lot about the class.
Correct. And I think that's the thing. And again, you know, could he have a Kalen Saunders type rise in the draft? Who knows? You know, you don't know what you're going to get until obviously later this week and more tape continues to come out. So I thought this class was going to be better. And then you get into the measurables and you're just like, dude, I don't know what to do with these guys. I just don't know what to do with some of them because of the size, lack of length, weight issues, lack of positional versatility, usage at the college level. Like, one thing I've learned over time is just how asinine some coaches are in college with what they do.
The stack.
It's stupid. It is the dumbest thing in the world. I hate
somebody who we're going to get into, I'm sure, for our edge conversation.
Yeah,
into that mix. You know, Canton Zone. There's so much usage stuff where, like, I would see somebody or how they were playing at the Senior Bowl, or I'm looking at, you know, guys and I'm seeing size and frame, and I'm like, all right, sweet, you know, and they're listed as a defensive tackle, and I'm like, sweet, let's see what we got. And then it's like, oh, they're playing as a 4-eye in the stack all the time, or they're playing only as like a shade in the stack all the time, and they're not built for it. It's the Will McDonald conversation from last year from Iowa State. Like, this skinny, looked like a wide receiver playing defensive end with these pass rush ability and all this juice. He's in a 4-eye all the time, playing in the stack. Like, and Iowa State's done that for forever. But it's actually, you know, and it's just.
But then you lose a year of development by doing that, because the guy's got to come in and play a 5, a 6. He's got to play a new position,
learn it in the NFL on the fly, and you lose that year. And then all of a sudden, now there's this pressure from the team, from the media, for him to take another step forward, and like. You're not setting these guys up for success. It's the same thing with like quarterbacks and the helmet communication. Why are we not there yet? Like, what are we doing? Do you know that's what they're going to deal with in the NFL? It's 2024, not 1961. Everybody at college has the giant boards with all these different.
Yeah, we got giant boards, and
you got the quarterbacks wearing like multicolored jerseys because they're doing this and everything, and it's so hard. Just put a freaking earpiece in their helmet and say like, "Yeah, play 4 on your wristband."
Exactly. And be done with it. Do a 10-second thing and be done with
Spider Y2 banana.
Right, dude. It's just, it's nonsense what's going on. So, Yeah, no, I don't know. Defensive tackle class, it's underwhelming. Very underwhelming. It's like I don't want to say it's like the tight end position, because the tight end position is just outside of the top two. It's just trash.
I like Sinat from Kansas State, not as like a top tier stud, but I liked him last year when I was watching BB. And I liked him this year. But again, I'm not looking at him to be like, man, this dude's a first round tight end.
Yeah, and again, watch now there'll be like 6 guys that are coming out and they're all pros and all this stuff at the position. But yeah, it's not a deep class at tight end and defensive tackle. I think there's some value and some deep players, but again, it's just underwhelming every time you put on the tape.
I agree.